What's up, everybody? Today we are doing a solo pod. I got inspired today to make this podcast about, are you being a pussy? Because I'm going to be real with you guys. As of late, I had a goal that I wanted to do a CrossFit qualifier. And trust me, this is not going to be all about CrossFit. If you don't know my CrossFit history or my athletic history, about a year and a half ago, I seriously injured my neck. I had a root nerve injury. I couldn't even push a 25 pound kettlebell up overhead. It was pretty bad. It took all the strength out of my arm. And then as soon as I rehabbed that, after about I think it was 4 months, 5 months, something like that, I finally gained full strength back. I shortly injured it right after that again for a second time. And so that brought me to the conclusion that I just wanted to take about a year off from trying to compete and from trying to train very seriously. I wanted to take time to give myself the opportunity to become healthy, to gain strength, to get my skills back, and to really just work on other things in my professional life and in my, personal life. And so recently I was asked to, or I guess given the challenge of possibly doing a CrossFit qualifier, again. My first injury happened while I was prepping for a competition that I had qualified for. And so the challenge arose when somebody brought up Fittest of the Coast. And then I was like, oh yeah, maybe I would like to do Fittest of the Coast, as a reintroduction to competing. So anyways, I get fired up for a few weeks about it. I'm really into it. I'm training hard. I'm getting back to it. And slowly I'm starting to lose sight of my other goals. Because if you know anything about me, I'm very one-track minded. I like to get, really invested into something and then nothing else can take precedence, right? And during this 1.5 year hiatus, my goal was to really grow this podcast at least as much as possible, plus work on any other business ventures that I may have had. And within this transition time, I also closed down my gym. A whole bunch of stuff has happened. And so anyway, I signed up for the qualifier after being, fired up for a few weeks. And I slowly started to see other things fizzle away. But along with that, I also started to see that my fire for competition wasn't really there. Or it was slowly going away as well. And I started to attribute it to a bunch of different things. I started to see these other goals taking a sideline to it, right? Or sitting on the sidelines to it. And then I started to feel all these aches and pains, right? I started to volume has to go up, intensity has to go up when you're prepping for one of these things. It just is what it is, right? Call a spade a spade. And I started to feel aches and pains come back, right? Things that I wasn't really feeling for a while. And I started to not enjoy training as much. And like I was when I was taking my time off from doing qualifiers and competing and things of that nature. So slowly things started to creep back in that reminded me why in the first place I wanted to take time off anyways. And so all of this compounding stuff kind of made me come to the conclusion or come to the question of, are you just being a pussy or do you really not want to do this thing? And so I think oftentimes when we think about these things, are we not challenging ourselves for the sake of not challenging ourselves because it's just too hard? Or is there validity in this? And if you're anything like me, you have these questions and you think about, am I just being a pussy? Am I making excuses? Are these excuses legitimate enough for me to not want to do this thing? And I'll be frank with you. I think that if you just don't want to do something, you just don't need to do it. But if you're not doing it for the simple sake of it's just hard, that's a little bit different, right? If something is hard and you're just quitting because it's hard and you don't want to do it because it's hard, that does make you a little bit of a pussy. But I think that a lot of people need help sparsing out why they don't want to do things or coming up with legitimate reasons, because if you're like me, then you're neurotic and you don't want to be a pussy and you want to do hard things, but you don't want to do hard things at the expense of other things. So again, I started to see my other goals dwindle away. I started to get these aches and pains again. And then I started to, the thoughts of like, am I risking actual injury again? I have kids. I don't want to be out of work. I want to be, able to play with my kids, all these different things, right? My longevity started to come into question. And so today I had a workout where it was 12 intervals, 12 400-meter repeats. And the workout before that didn't go as planned, but I think mostly because I wasn't really in it in my head. And on the 400-meter repeats, the note was, if your speed drop, so it's every 3 minutes, right? I was supposed to do a 400-meter run. And the note was, if you drop off by 10%, stop there for the day. And a non-negotiable for me today was just to finish all 12, regardless. I didn't care what the note said. I just said, this sucks. It hurts. I don't want to be doing this. So you're going to do it. You're going to do every single one, no matter if you drop off by 10% or not. Turns out I didn't drop off by 10%, not even close. But the fact was, or the thing is that I told myself, no matter what, you will do 12. You will do 12, even if you drop off, just because you don't want to. You're going to do it, because I knew that this wasn't going to, cause any sort of injury. This wasn't going to do anything detrimental. And then after the fact, I was really happy that I did that. Even though I didn't drop off by 10%, I was happy that I made that non-negotiable. And it inspired me to come up with these 5 different questions of, trying to figure out, are you being a pussy? Are you not doing something because you're being a pussy, because you just simply don't want to do hard things? And the first one is, are you making excuses? Now, look, it's really easy for all of us to come up with reasons why we don't want to do things and act as if they're not excuses, because it's our subjective experience. And I don't think that it's wrong inherently that you don't want to do things or that you make up reasons, but I do think it's wrong if you're making up reasons for the sake of just making up reasons rather than just being honest, like, I don't want to do it. For example, if I didn't want to do the 400-meter repeats just because I didn't want to do it, I don't need to make up a bunch of reasons why I don't want to do it to justify it. I could just simply say, I don't want to do it. And it doesn't make you any better or worse of a person if you just don't want to do something, but it's better, in my opinion, to just be honest about not wanting to do the thing for the sake of not wanting to do it, rather than trying to justify you not wanting to do it. So are you making excuses? Because at the end of the day, if you make excuses, you are going to know that you're making excuses, and you, if you're like me, are probably going to be upset with yourself just because you made up reasons why you didn't want to do it, rather than being honest about the fact that you just didn't want to do the thing. You're going to feel guilty. I can promise you that. Second, what is the internal dialogue? I think this is something that's really skipped over, and something that's really important to think about is, what is your internal dialogue when you are trying to figure out if you're being a pussy or if you don't want to do something, right? If the internal dialogue is all negative feedback, it's all negative talk, and there's no positive talk, then I think that you really have to rework and rethink about whether you're not doing something for the sake of it being hard, or if you're doing something because you just, you have real reasons not to do it. For example, if I would have been today in a negative mindset all day and just been like, man, this really sucks, this isn't good, like you're being a pussy, just stop, just don't do it, it hurts, all this stuff, blah, 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 rather than having an objective viewpoint on it, like, do things hurt? Am I holding speed? Am I actually going to be able to take this the distance? Is it true that I don't have enough energy today, right? If you can be objective about it rather than having a subjective experience in this internal dialogue, then you can make a real decision on whether or not you don't want to do something because it's not going to be a benefit to you, or if you are just being a pussy, just straight up being a pussy. And I think so often people just don't really like to have that conversation. They don't really like to be honest with themselves about hey, I really just don't want to do this. Or, hey, also, if you're like me too, you might be one of those people that in the past would have just pushed for the sake of pushing because it's on the piece of paper, or it's in the email, or it's on the note, whatever it is, rather than having an objective viewpoint of it, hey, is this going to hurt me? Am I having too much aches and pains? Because if I'm really aching, if I'm having pain, and you guys, this goes for more than just exercising. I'm using exercise as as the example here because the easiest thing is it's the thing that happened to me today that, caused this discussion. Am I having aches and pains? Are these aches and pains like too much? Should I train through this or should I not, right? You need to know if something is going to be a detriment to you or if it's not going to be a detriment to you. And if you can have that discussion with yourself and be objective about it, again, you're probably not going to feel as guilty just giving up or just not doing the thing, or you're going to feel really guilty giving up and not doing the thing if you're being honest with yourself. The third thing is, and I think that this is really important, what is your desired outcome? What is the desired outcome for anything that you are doing? So again, for the workout today, my desired outcome was to get through the workout healthy, no pain, no injury, and to finish, right? I think the desired outcome is always the thing that you need to think about when chasing a goal, rather than just your day to day. Because a lot of people will do things at the expense of other things happening rather than thinking long term, what is the setback, right? And that brings me straight to the next point, which is what are the risks you take if you take action? So me personally, I'm a person that will just do whatever is written on the sheet when it comes to working out, when it comes to the things that I know that I need to do. And sometimes I don't really think about what are the risks that I'm taking. For example, let's go back to the exercise thing again. If I would have knee pain or, I have 2 torn MCLs. So if I have knee pain and if I'm willing to take the risk of going through the runs, even when there's pain there, what could possibly happen, right? I could injure myself even further, and then I could take 5 steps back rather than just taking 1 step back, not finishing all of the intervals so that tomorrow I can have a good training day and Wednesday I could have a good training day. But sometimes I think that some of us are too short-sighted, right? Where we just do the things that we think that we need to do so that we don't feel guilty about not doing them. And so we risk injury or we risk financial loss or we risk all these things that don't actually give us benefit in the long term. And I think that in a way, just because we're using pussy as the word here, this kind of makes you a pussy too, because you're not willing to delay that instant gratification in order to get a longer term return. So often people will just, and I think that this is not talked about enough, is that even the people who are the grind mindset, work harder, work now, do everything now, sometimes are very short-sighted and won't put their ego aside and give themselves a break so that they can have more longevity in whatever space that they're in, instead, just for the sake of working hard, right? And that's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately is, am I going to cause myself burnout? Am I going to cause myself injury? Am I going to lose a lot of finances now with the hopes that longer term things happen? Or should I play everything smart so I can take 1 step back instead of 5 to move forward a little bit quicker? If you take 1 step back and you move forward just a little bit every single day, you're going to get to your destination and your desired outcome a little bit faster than you would if you had to take 5 steps back and recover all that time. So what are the risks that you take if you take action? That's a question that you really have to think about before you take action to know that, am I being a pussy or am I actually doing the thing? Because I think that actually both sides of the coin can be being a pussy. You work too hard, too soon, just for the sake of ego and other people's, validation. And then also, you might not work hard enough, and that is also being a pussy because you're just not willing to be uncomfortable. Both of these situations are just 2 people that are unwilling to be uncomfortable for the short time. If you can find yourself somewhere in the middle, and I'm not saying that that's super easy. I'm not saying that I have a formula to figure that out. It's different for everybody, but somewhere in the middle is probably best. You are looking for longevity in most cases. Most people are, right? Would the struggle be worth it if you achieved your desired outcome? So this is another thing that I've really been having to think about. The desired outcome for this was to qualify for this CrossFit competition in a certain division. And so I have had to think about it, and I've been ruminating on it for about 4 days. Is the struggle that I'm about to go through worth this for my desired outcome? And I have come to the conclusion that it is not worth it. It's not worth it. My goal is not to be the fittest man on earth right now. My goal is not to be the fittest man in the room. It's to be in really good shape. It's to be fitter than 99% of people. It's to be able to play with my kids. It's to be able to compete in other things, or like go run a 10K for fun, or, go mountain biking and do kickboxing and do all these other things that I'm really interested in, to grow the podcast, to grow my other YouTube channel, to make more money, to grow my business. And so this desired outcome of getting to this position where I might qualify for this competition just is not worth it to me because of everything else. Let's go back to number 4. What are the risks if you take action? I could re-injure myself. I'm losing money. I'm losing time, which is potential for money. I'm losing, I'm going to be constantly sore. I'm risking, there's so many things, right? That in previous seasons of my life, I would have been willing to go through the risk, and I would have been willing to go through the process. But right now, I'm just I'm not willing to do that. So the struggle would not be worth it for the desired outcome. The things that I am really invested in right now are professional life, my professional life, finances. I want to do the Leadville 100 mountain bike race. Those things, all of the struggles that go into those goals are worth the desired outcomes. I'm willing to stay up late to work, and that's worth it to me. I'm willing to wake up early to work, to possibly make more money, to create more leads. That's worth it to me. I'm willing to spend the money on things to expedite processes in my business, in my creativity, in travel, because that's worth it to me. It helps with the outcome. It gives me the ability to network. It gives me the ability to acquire more clients. It gives me the ability to do so many different things. Those struggles are worth it to me. And I think so often people just jump into stuff and they don't think about the struggles it's going to take to get there. And that's and whether it's worth it to them or not. And that's why they see burnout, and that's why they quit, and that's why they feel unfulfilled. When if you'd come up with a goal that every single struggle and road bump that you would run into is worth it, when you truly think about it, it'd be more fulfilling, and you'd be more likely to actually stick to the plan to achieve the desired outcome. But a lot of people have grandiose ideas of what they wish they could have, I like to say a lot of people want things instead, or would like things instead of really want things, right? And a lot of people think that the things that they would like are their actual goals, rather than things that they would not, or that they want. Because the things that they would like, though, they never actually go and pursue because they don't actually want them. So you have the things that you would like here, which is, I would like to have a Bugatti, but you won't work overtime. You won't start a side hustle. You won't go make the investments. And then you have the things that you want, like a family and a girlfriend and, a good paying job. And those are the things that you show up for every single day. But so many people get these two hands confused that they never actually take any action on the things that they say that they would like, because a grandiose idea sounds like a goal, but it's not. It's just a dream. It's something that you would like rather than something that you actually want. So anyways, guys, that was just something that came to me, an inspiration today after my workout today, because to be honest with you, I go through struggles every day, and I think that a lot of times people watch people on the internet and people who are arguably, or not arguably, I don't know, higher performers and look very productive and busy, and think that, we don't go through these same struggles. I think the difference is that some of us have a better time having real conversations with yourself and being honest with yourself than others. And this is something that I think is like the biggest life hack in the world, right? Forget all the other nonsense that these entrepreneurs and people tell you that you'll probably never follow through with. If one thing that I can tell you guys that is the best advice that I can give is you need to get comfortable with talking to yourself in the mirror and being real with yourself about the things that you want, the things that you're willing to do to get there, and the things that you're not willing to do, and the things that you would like to have instead of want to have. That's one of the best conversations that you can have with yourself, is just being honest. Am I willing to do these things? Do I really want this thing, or do I not? So anyway, guys, let me know in the comment section below if this resonates with you. Like this video if you did like it. Let me know. Are you being a pussy? What are the things that you're being a pussy about? Or are you not? And what are the things that you're not being a pussy about? I think that'd be a really interesting comment section. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you did like it. Hit that like button, subscribe if you are new, and I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Peace out. Goodbye.